to the Pastors Collective with Greg Surratt and Darrin Patrick. On each episode of our show, you'll hear from pastors about the real work of pastoring, stories from the trenches of ministry that reveal the joys, heartaches, and grace that come from leading and serving in local churches. Today we're doing something a little different. Pastor Greg and Pastor Darrin are going to be sharing their reflections on something every pastor faces: criticism. Whether it's from inside the staff or from members of the church, whether it's about the way we lead our ministries or something we said in our sermons, we all have to deal with criticism. So how should we respond? How do we internalize it, or how do we take it to the Lord? You'll hear thoughts on these questions and more in the discussion ahead.
So hey, Darrin Patrick here with Pastor Greg Surratt. We're talking about critics and how do you respond to them here on the Pastors Collective.
Have you ever had critics?
I don't think so.
Can I criticize that just for a minute?
Yeah, be critical of my lack of critics. I haven't been criticized in the last 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But 45 seconds ago, you criticized me. So.
Right. That's it. That's not criticism. That's constructive criticism. And, when we talk about criticism, I was thinking back to when I got into pastoring. And it seems like, of course, your perspective is clouded by your, years and current experience and all of that. But it was kind of like when Debbie and I got married, and I worked for Hewlett-Packard Company, and she worked for a healthcare place, and people liked us. We went to a little church, and we had friends, and I don't remember critics. I really don't. And when we began to, even when I was a youth pastor in the church, it was kind of like, there were some critics, but you were the up and coming guy, and even some people who would tend to criticize the pastor want to come to you. And before I got wise to that made me feel good. I mean, I must, and actually it was a terrible thing. But when we began to be the senior leader is when I remember it was almost like a target. And I remember sitting down with Debbie one day and said, it seems like just yesterday people liked us. And it's not a lot either. I mean, critics are few, but it feels like a bunch, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, you talk about the vocal minority, but it feels like a majority in your head. It feels like if one person says something, you feel like everybody is saying something, when it's really not true. But it's really hard to accept the fact that to be a leader means you're going to invite people to speak into pretty much every part of your leadership and even your life.
Part of fathering is correction, and you can see that as critics, and so it's important that we crave coaching in our lives. I think I told the story on one of our podcasts. Maybe I didn't. If I did, it's just good to hear it again. But I remember doing a chapel with the Colts and talking to some of the coaches about what their values are. And one of the values are you got to crave coaching, and told me about Reggie Wayne, who was an all-pro wide receiver, who would come to the summer camp and tell them, coach me like a rookie. Don't coach me like an all-pro. And if you've ever been on a football team, there's not often, excuse me, or what. It's like they come right at you with what could be criticism, but it's actually coaching. And so coaching is important. We need coaching, and that comes on the back of affirmation. Someone affirms you. It kind of builds a platform to coach you or to be critical of some things. So it can be good, but
that's not usually how it comes up. You don't get the affirmation sandwich. You just get the criticism, and I think that's what's hard. Because you don't think when you're hearing the criticism, you're not thinking, I really want to listen to this. You're thinking most of the time, why are you talking to me right now? And all the other stuff that has been good, why didn't you say anything then? Mm-hmm. So you get really defensive, and you kind of get paranoid. Like, what else is wrong? And who else is on this team that's criticizing me? It's just so easy to take it personally.
It is.
How have you, like, over the years, how have you been able to, like, receive it as coaching? And what are some of the techniques maybe that you've used there?
Well, in my mind, everything is in threes. And so there's kind of three concepts for me when it comes to criticism is, first of all, I don't go searching for it. Not long ago, somebody told me that on Facebook that a former employee, I think, was just ripping me about, some stuff. And right away, my first thought is, I'm going to go see what that is. And then I thought, no, I'm not going to. If it's important, they can talk to me about that. But, to go searching for it, I'm not going to do that. Then the second thing is take the best of it. Don't search for it, but take the best of it. Like we just talked about, we need constructive criticism, and it's most trusted. I most trust it if it does come on the back of relationship, or if it does come on the back of affirmation. I really, really, really trust it. And sometimes I don't like it, but I trust it. But there are times when someone has a valid concern, sometimes even on the little comment cards that come in the offering. I have a principle there. If they don't put their name on it, I don't look at it. If they'll put their name on it, and better yet, a phone number, we can discuss it. And they may not have the platform of affirmation or relationship, but there may be something I need to hear. And so I'll try to take the best of it, and then bless the rest of it, because it's real easy I see it as, the Bible says, don't let the fiery darts of the enemy. And criticism is a fiery dart, and it's sharp and it's pointed and it gets right into your spirit. And it may have just been something that somebody, they didn't even think it through. They just said, boom, here it is. But for you, you're mulling on it, and you're mad about it, and that person's already moved on, and you're still there at that place. And so just bless it, But hey, listen, it's okay. Everybody has an opinion. It's okay. Now, can I get on a hobby horse for a second?
Yes.
All right. There are Christian blogs that's their whole gig.
Really?
I've heard that.
I'm unfamiliar with that.
Are you? We had a mutual friend not long ago that had a situation in his church. A staff member did something wrong, and he handled it in the best way that he thought that he could, and probably made one mistake. And it was in the whole scheme of things, it was a momentary decision, but everything else was great.
Not sinful, just not wise.
No, just not wise. And honestly, if I was put in the same situation, I don't know how I'd handle it. All right. And so there are bloggers that said to him, we're going to take you down.
Yeah.
Christian, we're going to take you down. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be. Not necessary. And so that's my hobby horse.
Yeah. Well, on the other side of that, I think it is good that there are people who are holding leaders' feet to the fire in this sense. I think we've lived in a day, and I think that day is over, where, because of the internet, no matter what happens in your church, it's going to the whole world. Mm-hmm. And there is an accountability to that. So I love the fact that there is an accountability to that. I hate the fact that it seems like anybody, I like to call them keyboard gangsters. They're tough behind the keyboard.
Yeah.
But that I hate the fact that people, instead of going to people now, talk about them with everybody. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that builds community. I don't think that's healthy for the church. And I don't really know the way out of it, but I think one of the ways we can, model, I heard this phrase, blessed is the one whose chief critics are their best friends. So I think what leaders can do is surround themselves with people who, in a good sense, aren't impressed by them and are willing to tell them the truth. Mm-hmm. And if we protect ourselves that way and we're accountable and we're, there's good feedback loops and we're willing to hear it from our friends, maybe we won't have to hear it from the internet.
That's good. And that's why we believe that everybody needs to sit at a table, at least one, with a group of people that love you, but they're not impressed with you.
Yeah.
And if you've got the spinach in your teeth, they'll tell you. Yeah. And that's helpful. So, criticism.
Can't live with it. Can't live
Don't want to live without it. Or I'd like to live without it. How's that? Let's end it on that.
Thanks for listening. If you're enjoying our show, please take a minute to leave us a rating and review in iTunes. You can learn more about each episode and find transcripts at www.pastorscollective.com. Our show is executive produced by Greg Surratt and Darrin Patrick. It's produced and mixed by Mike Cosper and Narrativo Group. This episode was recorded by Christian Stropko. Thanks for listening. We'll be back in a couple of weeks.